Escalating tensions between China and the U.S. are taking a toll on exposed U.S. companies. Shares of Apple have fallen over 20% in the past month due to its heavy reliance on China for manufacturing, with no clear signal that a negotiation between the major economies is near. So where does that leave companies caught in the middle? Joining us now, Nazak Nikakhtar. She is a partner at Wiley Law and a former trade official under the first Trump administration. Nazak, great to speak with you. Talk to me about how you would advise a company like Apple in this moment. What would you be telling them about whether to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. to spend the money to do what the administration wants versus waiting it out or moving to a country that has a lower tariff?
Well, great to be with you. And that's exactly the way to be thinking about it. I mean, for companies, it's, just the idea of moving a supply chain is, a multi-million, $100 million, billion-dollar value proposition. And you can't really do that every few years. So for companies like Apple, they're going to have to think about, where is it going to be sustainable in the long term? What is the climate like in that country? Is it a democracy? What are the prospects of long-term economic stability there? And then trade relationships with the United States and the rest of the world. Everything's volatile right now, but looking at the countries and looking about really the geopolitical stability is going to be key. We want things to move back into the United States, but let's be realistic. Not everything can move back into the United States. We got energy constraints. We've got workforce constraints. So companies are going to really have to look at do the economics make sense in the short, medium, and long term.
Nazak, it's Kenny Polcari. Listen, and I agree with you 100%. You can't necessarily all of a sudden say Apple's going to start producing in the U.S. It's just an impossibility to do it overnight. But there are plenty of other places, and they've already started to kind of fan out. Vietnam, India, those are places that might, in fact, actually look at the current situation between China and the U.S. and China and the rest of the world and look at it as an opportunity to jump in here and steal some of that, which I think they're already doing, which I also think that it would be perfect for Apple to kind of shift more of that production to those countries, because I think they're going to get a better deal, quite honestly, if they come to the States and negotiate a better deal, which China doesn't seem to want to do at the moment.
I mean, I think really just going back to the earlier point, looking at each country makes a huge difference. Look, Vietnam is a non-market economy, right? It's still a communist country. There are going to be issues with that country, and the U.S. government is going to have issues. Even though Vietnam has said that it's going to reduce its tariffs down to zero, that's honestly not going to make a mistake because the disadvantages to U.S. manufacturing stem from other aspects of Vietnam. India is in a completely different story, right? It's a democratic country. The president really likes Modi, and the Indian government has done a lot to really signal that they want to improve trade relations with the United States and reduce their barriers. If we can deal with India, being part of the China's BRICS and get them to ease off China, I think India is a really good prospect for American companies to manufacture there.
Talk to me about how you see other countries either banding together or coming apart in this moment. The EU this morning adopting tariffs on 21 billion pounds of U.S. goods in a metals dispute. Do you anticipate the EU, even China, other nations coming together in this moment to fight the U.S.? Or do you think that the Trump administration is going to be able to put pressure on other nations to ostracize China even further?
I genuinely don't think that the countries are just going to flock to China because they just see the problems with China. And they've been seeing, at least for the last decade, right, the problem with increasing trade relationships with China. So I don't think that that's going to happen. I think right now we're going to be in a position where countries are just going to fend for themselves. They're going to try to sort of improve trade relationships with one another, like Canada and Europe. But at the end of the day, we all need each other's markets. And, there's going to be a period where these tit-for-tat measures are going to continue. But I think at the end of the day, every single country, I think including the United States, is going to want to better integrate their supply chains and really, frankly, reduce their barriers to trade, because this situation, this status quo cannot continue. And I think we're going to get to a better place. And I think we're going to get to a better place, within this year, probably in the fall. But right now, I think every country is going to flex its muscles to show their constituents at home that they're going to fight back until the pain gets too much. And then I think they're going to work on with the United States and collectively on a path forward.
Yeah, I think if it is true what we're hearing, and all these countries are coming, calling up the White House saying, I want to make a deal, I want to come and negotiate. If that's true, then I think it is, then I think the second half of the year will prove to be better. And so investors, individual investors, really need to kind of take a step back and not overreact and not get themselves into a panic over, what I think is going to be, like you, I think is going to be more of a short-term issue.
I think, look, the panic is a little bit sort of short-term, misplaced. It stems from people not understanding Washington, too, and not understanding that these tensions continue until they subside and countries decide to work together. But in the global trade, inherent in global trade is friction. Inherent in global trade is geopolitical disputes. And those disputes generally among like-minded democratic countries that share the same value system and a commitment to a rules-based system, those negotiations will happen. We'll ultimately get on the same page. This is just a short-term disruption to get to a better outcome, and I'm certain we'll get there.
100%.
All right, Nazak, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.